Welcome to the Explainer. So, if you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by a cluttered desktop while trying to build or debug a distributed system, well, you are definitely in the right place. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's take a look at your dark-themed macOS VS Code setup. Today, I'm going to walk you through something that literally shifted the way I develop. We're mastering VS Code multi-root workspaces.
Let me just ask you this. Are you tired of juggling 5 different VS Code windows just to work on a single feature that touches, say, 5 different microservices? I mean, we've all been there, right? You're constantly alt-tabbing between your front-end repo, your back-end API, a background worker, maybe some infrastructure as code files. It's absolute chaos. You lose your train of thought, you lose track of which terminal belongs to which service, and honestly, the friction just absolutely drains your daily productivity.
But what if we could transform that? We're going to take those 5 chaotic, totally disconnected microservice windows and consolidate them into one single, unified, clean workspace. Just imagine having your entire aggregate project right there in one file explorer. Shared settings, shared terminal tasks, combined debugging, the whole shebang.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The microservice window chaos. 2. Building your unified workspace. 3. Settings and extension recommendations. 4. Compound launch configurations. And finally 5. A cross-service debugging scenario.
Let's dive into part 1, the microservice window chaos. You really have to wonder why our default way of working is actually hurting us. Context switching between disconnected IDE instances isn't just a minor annoyance, it causes actual configuration drift. Think about it. You might have one formatting rule in your front-end window and a totally different one in your API window. And oh man, what about those zombie background processes? You close a window thinking you stopped a service, but nope, the process is still running, leading to those incredibly frustrating port conflicts. Ultimately, this fragmentation is exactly what leads to that dreaded "it works on my machine" excuse, simply because there's no single source of truth for how the system should run as a whole.
Which brings us to part 2, building your unified workspace. Think of this as the ultimate oasis of order for complex, distributed systems. And the procedure to fix all that chaos? It's actually surprisingly simple. Step 1, you just open your primary project folder in VS Code. Step 2, go to the File menu and click Save Workspace As. Bam, this instantly centralizes your project state. Then, Step 3, you simply go back to that File menu and select Add Folder to Workspace and pick your additional microservice repos. Just like that, all your distant folders are sitting right there side by side in one unified file explorer.
Now, what's really interesting here is what's happening under the hood. When you hit Save Workspace As, VS Code creates this .code/workspace file. Basically, it's a JSON-based manifest. It acts as the absolute single source of truth for the boundaries and settings of your entire aggregate project. And hey, quick pro tip for you. Use relative paths inside this JSON file instead of absolute paths. Why? Because by using relative paths, you ensure this workspace file is perfectly portable across your entire team's macOS machines, no matter where they actually clone the repos on their local drives. It's a total game changer.
All right, part 3, settings and extension recommendations.
Okay, so now that we've got a unified UI, let's talk about the configuration layer. We obviously need to enforce team-wide consistency, right? But we also can't just override the specific needs of an individual microservice. Well, VS Code handles this through a really elegant precedence hierarchy. On one hand, you've got workspace settings. These are defined right in your .code workspace file and apply globally, which is perfect for standardizing linters and formatters for the whole team. But on the other hand, you have folder settings. These live inside a local .vscode/settings.json file within a specific microservice folder. The crucial takeaway here is that local folder settings will gracefully override those workspace defaults whenever a specific microservice needs a specialized tweak.
So what should you actually put in that workspace configuration? First up, definitely define extensions.recommendations. This literally eliminates friction for new hires because VS Code will automatically prompt them to install the exact right tools like Gitlins or Docker the very second they open the workspace. You should also standardize your formatting, set up terminal layouts using tasks.json to automatically boot up our services, and if you're using something like Python, manage your virtual environments like Poetry. That way each folder runs in total isolation without any package pollution.
Moving on to part 4, compound launch configurations.
Now, this is where we step into advanced orchestration. We want to start multiple microservices simultaneously without lifting a finger, right?
You do this by creating a compound launch configuration right in your workspace. The anatomy of this is brilliant. First, you have an array of configurations, which simply lists the names of your individual debug setups to run in parallel. Then, there's pre-launch task, which is amazing for triggering database migrations or builds right before the debugger attaches. And my absolute favorite, stop all. This Boolean flag ensures that if you stop one single service, the entire stack terminates. Boom! No more annoying zombie processes or port conflicts.
I do need to give you a quick warning here, though. In a multi-root setup, the standard WS Workspace variable becomes highly ambiguous, simply because, well, you have multiple roots. So the explicit trick here is to scope your variables using a colon and the folder name, something like WS Workspace :API service. This explicitly points VS Code to the exact right directory and prevents a massive headache of pathing errors later on.
Finally, Part 5, a cross-service debugging scenario.
Let's actually bring all this theory to life and frame it like a bit of a detective story. Imagine you're an IT support engineer dealing with a high-stakes, real-world ticket. At 10 a.m., a critical cross-service request fails in your mock environment. Now, by 10:05 a.m., instead of frantically cloning and opening 5 separate repos in a total panic, you calmly open your single unified .code-workspace file. All the mock microservice folders just populate instantly. And by 10:10 a.m., because your environment is perfectly centralized, you were already actively tracing the bug.
So you launched that compound debugger we just built, spinning up both the front end and the API simultaneously. You trigger the mock request from the browser, and here is the incredibly satisfying payoff. You watch your breakpoint hit in the front-end JavaScript repo, you step through the network call, and the debugger seamlessly leaps straight into the back-end API repository in the exact same IDE window. No way, right? You can inspect the call stack and trace variables across entirely different code bases without ever losing focus. It's just magic.
I want to leave you with this really great quote from the source material. By integrating these practices, development teams can effectively navigate the challenges of modern software engineering, maintaining high velocity in complex environments. I think that perfectly summarizes the immense value of this unified setup. By just taking an hour to configure a multi-root workspace, you are literally replacing daily chaos with a calm, predictable, and highly professional engineering environment. So what you really need to take away from this explainer is that you have the power to control your development environment rather than letting it control you. Is it time to finally stop juggling windows and start building your unified workspace? I highly encourage you to create a local sandbox today, make your first .code workspace file, and feel the difference for yourself. Thanks for hanging out with me, and happy coding.